Next, let us discuss barriers in communication. Now, what is the meaning of barrier? Barrier means something which stops. It's a hurdle. It's a hindrance. Okay, something which stops effective communication. Now, what kind of questions can be asked from this part? They may ask you a 2-mark question where they will ask you to specifically explain a particular barrier in communication. So they'll say explain the physical barrier, emotional barrier. Or they may ask you a 4-mark question, explain any 2 barriers in communication. They may ask you a 5-mark question, explain any 5 barriers to communication, or list all the barriers in communication and explain any 2. So a variety of questions can be asked. You need to memorize the heading. The remaining part you can write in your own words. But please study whatever I have given in the notes. I have considered all the options and given it in a very easy to write format. So a specific question on a particular barrier, a general question asking you to comment on or write any 2 barriers in communication, or maybe 4 barriers to communication. So let us discuss this in detail now. The first barrier to communication is the physical barrier. Physical barriers include noise. Now, let's say that your dad works in a factory, or it's a manufacturing unit. So there is a lot of machine noise in the background. So you have called your dad and you asked him, Dad, when will you come home? I need to talk to you. And he says, Son, I'm very busy. And I ate my lunch. He's not able to understand what you're asking. In fact, he thought you're asking whether he had lunch or not. So that noise in the background can be a barrier to communication. You are traveling in train and your friend called you, and there is erratic network. Sometimes there is network, sometimes it is blank, sometimes his voice is cracking. So you are not able to hear what he's saying. Noise also includes some place. This was about the physical noise. Noise also includes that when the person is distracted, when he is not in his state, or maybe he's thinking something else, that is also noise. Technical disturbances, like there is network problem, or maybe you are traveling, you enter a tunnel, okay, or maybe you are in the train, or you are at a place at a hilltop where there is a network which is coming and going. So these are all physical barriers. They don't aid effective communication. Other person is not able to hear what you're talking. Office doors and space. We never considered this as a barrier, but it is. Now let's say that your boss is sitting in his cabin, okay, in the office. You feel very hesitant to go in that office. You feel that it is a very important person who is sitting there. How will I go to that office? How will I talk to that person? This is also a physical barrier. So nowadays, if you see students, there is an open office concept wherein boss is also sitting over there and the employees are also sitting. Everybody is working in one open space. Sometimes I know you may argue that, ma'am, then we can't talk behind the boss's back. No, he's always there to hear, and we'll all have to work. We can't pass time. So yes, every kind of space has its pros and cons. Or maybe he's sitting at a desk slightly far away, but it's an open office concept. Nowadays, there are no doors. There's no cabin concept now. Outdated equipment. Now your machine is not working. Your let's say if my iPad, it is now all of old technology. It's like 5 years back. It has become very slow. You tell me to reply and I take a lot of time to type and a lot of time to send email. That is a barrier in communication. Outdated equipment, maybe machinery, or maybe in my case it can be old laptop or computers. Slow. The processing is slow. Distant locations. You want to talk to your uncle who's staying in America. Now, there is a huge time difference. No, here when it is day, it is night over there. And when they get up, like we are sleeping. So, and suppose if your brother, he has shifted to UK. Again, there is time difference. And their time changes according to the weather also. Like in winters, their clock changes. In summer, it is different. They have longer days. So their clock changes. So that time zone is so difficult to understand. Now, there are distant places. So best is to send email. But not everyone feels comfortable writing email. We want to talk to that person, but he's sleeping. So those distant locations are a physical barrier to communication. Like, you have to stay awake till and they get up, and so that you can talk. So you sleep late. Everything is getting upset. You must have experienced that with either your family member, or someone must have told you about their experience. Yes. So that is a physical barrier to communication. Then we have organizational structure barrier. Best example I think is of a government office. See, I'm not against anyone working in a government office. You may have parents or relatives working there, but what I mean to say is that you are also aware that how things move in a government office. The file should be taken to that person. No, we don't know. Ask him. I don't know anything about it. Sometimes you don't know who is the right person to communicate. Sometimes you don't know the hierarchy. Sometimes even the members, the employees are not aware what to do. So उसके पास जाओ, go to that person, ये file उसके पास लेके जाओ, and then we are just roaming in that office and we come to that person. Everybody sent me to you only. It happens, no? So communication problem occurs when systems, structures, processes, they are not clear, they have gaps in them. So if I want to raise a complaint, I don't know who is the right person. So I go to 4 different persons, and ultimately my complaint is not registered because I'm not able to find the right person who will take my complaint. That is a barrier to communication, no? Acha, I want to give the order. Now they are saying, no, ask that person what about the stock, ask this person about sales, go to that person. It's like, I don't want to give order to you, I'll give it to someone else. So these are barriers to communication. Inappropriate information transmission, lack of supervision, unclear role, responsibility demarcation leads to confusion and inefficiency. Inappropriate information transmission systems. So I'm not able to transmit information. Like, I want certain information. I have requested it from a person. He's sending it to me after 1 week. My work gets affected. I'm not able to give answer to the customer. There's no appropriate information system. Now, what organizations do over here? They prepare a bank. All the information which is commonly required by employees is stored in that bank. You can choose whichever file you want for instructions. So suppose you're working in a call center. So you will have a list of questions which are normally asked by the callers. So just go click that. So you need not ask the supervisor again and again. You already have a list. Lack of supervision. Now, employees don't work if there's no supervision. Boss has gone home, let us also go home. Unclear role and responsibility. I'll give the example of my sister. She works in a corporate, and always, the boss keeps changing. So, and many a times the managing director, the CEO also changes. Okay, the CEO changes. So a new person will bring in new ideas. He will have his own experiences, and he will want to work in a certain way. So he will tell the employees, no, now let's scrap this department. People who are working there will join the other department. Let's merge all the processes. And now you take that role, you take this role. Now, she has handled so many roles in her organization. And then finally she's like, this is not my work, that is not my work. Now I have to do that other person's work also. Every time the role keeps changing, and she's so frustrated now. She has finally decided to put in the papers, because that is not how organizations should function. That is not, employees will also not be satisfied. No, you are asked to do work of 2 people. And that person is saying, no, this is not what I'm supposed to do. You do it. And you are saying, no, this is not my work. Then ultimately, who will do it? There's no clear role of responsibility. There's no demarcation. Demarcation means this is your work, this is my work. That is demarcation, separation. That leads to confusion and inefficiency. They don't feel like working then. Language barriers. Yes, we have faced that so many times, no? Difficult words. Now, if I give you a book, let's say it's a historical book, there are difficult words, sentences are confusing. You will not read after 2 pages. Sometimes we find the module also in the same way. No, English is a very funny language, I think. One word has so many multiple interpretations, and sometimes the sentence formation is such, like if you see the module also, the sentence formation is such that they complicate the sentence and we are not able to understand. So difficult words should be avoided in communication. Subject specific terminology. I always give the example. I always give my students this example. You go for any blood test, or maybe, some pathological test, or you go for an X-ray. They will give you a report. Okay, they will give you the slides. They will give you a report. And out of curiosity, we always want to read the report, no? So we open the report and quickly scan it. Half the things so we don't understand only. Because they are all written in scientific terms and we are commerce students, but still we try to read. Then we will Google. And everything leads to cancer. Oh God, no, 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 no. I am reading wrong. Then we keep the report inside. We have to go to the doctor. And he says everything is fine. Those words, okay, those subject specific terminology, that's a barrier to communication. That's a language barrier. So when you're communicating with the audience, you should know whether they are going to understand those terms or not. Like say for example, if I go to some medical conference, then if you use those words, it is understandable. But if you're going to a general conference and you start using, legal words, terminologies, something which the audience is not going to understand, then it is not an effective communication. So whenever you communicate, students, it is very important to understand your audience. Then we have ambiguous words, confusing words. Like when I used to teach my son English, and when he had just started listening to new words, learning new words, he would say, Mama, why is dear and dear the same? Why is it spelt the same? D-E-A-R and D-E-E-R. So I had no answer for it. Then nowadays in school they start they teach phonics depending on the sound. Now dear and dear both sound the same. So there was so many words. Now I can't recollect all of them, but he would always come and ask me that why are we using the same spelling? But yeah, these are ambiguous, these are confusing words. Then in spelling also, when you listen to a word and you write it, like no, he used to say N-O. And I was like, no, K-N-O-W. But he said, no, you said no. And I am arguing, yeah, it is spelled N-O, but the spelling is K-N-O-W. But he's saying, but N-O is no, na? We used to argue, I'm telling you, but I had no answer for all these things. So these are ambiguous words. They are confusing words. Now, this is a very basic example. But when you teach someone who doesn't know English, and these are words which come in the passage or, whatever you're teaching, then you need to explain. And these are language barriers. So ambiguous words, difficult words, spellings. Also, I would just like to add over here, in our country, there are so many different languages which are spoken. There are many who don't even know how to speak proper Hindi, or there are people who don't know how to speak English. Now, if I am an English speaking person and I talk to someone who doesn't know English, that is a language barrier. You are talking in Hindi, but the other person doesn't know Hindi, that is a language barrier. So these are barriers to communication. Then we have cultural barriers. I am so blessed, students. Sometimes I feel like, we are blessed that we stay in India because there are so many cultures. And firstly, we have a culture. You go abroad, there's no culture. Like in Western countries, there is hardly any culture, But yes, in Asia, in Asian countries, there is culture. We respect elders. Whatever they may tell us, at the end of the day, we are extremely respectful to our elders. When you enter somebody's home, you first remove your chappals as a matter of respect. Even in our classes, it's a temple for us. So we also remove our shoes. Even my students, they remove their shoes and sit at, because like how you remove your shoes when you enter your house, this is, or when you enter a temple, this is a temple of learning. It's nothing but respect. There are times wherein, if you have those memories, I don't know whether you have it, I'll just give you an example. Your dad is doing some puja. You also sit beside him. So he gives you rice and he will give you some petals or give you a book to read that, okay, read along with me. This is culture which is passed from generation to generation. We have so many festivals that we celebrate in our country and everybody celebrates. Like I celebrate Navratri also, although it is a Gujarati festival. Or I may celebrate the Parsi New Year because I'm working in a Parsi firm. I'm telling you students, I love Christmas. It's my favorite festival. I'm from a convent school. So in my school, Christmas was a very big event. Like there was a time in school, I remember, I used to love Christmas more than Diwali. Now I enjoy both equally. But in school, for me, Christmas was a big thing. I remember my principal actually would dress up as Santa Claus. Or sometimes principal was not a Santa. So we would keep guessing which teacher has dressed as Santa. It was fun. We used to sing carols. That is culture. But this sometimes also acts as a barrier Like you are married in a house which follows different culture. So let's say that you have always worn slippers in the house, but you are married to in a house wherein they don't wear slippers in the house. So that is a barrier. You eat in a particular plate, or that it is a family wherein they share food from a particular plate. So these are small things, but they are barriers, no, to communication. Understanding the cultural aspect of communication refers to having knowledge of different cultures in order to communicate effectively with cross culture people. In certain cultures, showing a thumbs up is like all the best, very good. But in certain cultures, this is considered as an obscene sign. Even this, "Arey, very good, बहुत मजा आया." But this is considered as an obscene sign in certain cultures. So you have to be aware of their culture. I remember one more incident. I'll just share it with you. I had visited Turkey long time back, and in Turkey, it's their culture that they will offer tea to, even if you are waiting outside the restaurant. Like, my husband, I remember he had gone to inquire at some place, and they said, sit, have tea. In their culture, it is considered rude if you don't have tea that they offer. So he had gone to 2-3 places, and he was like, I was drinking tea every time they made me drink tea. But they give you a small cup. However, if you don't accept, it is considered rude. So before going to that country, luckily we had read about it, and they said that if you don't drink that tea, it is considered rude. In Dubai, I was reading the other day, during Ramzan, you're not allowed to eat or drink in public places because everybody is fasting. Okay, the locals are fasting. So you should not eat in front of them. You can eat in like malls, wherein it's a restaurant, or there's a food court. There you can eat, but you cannot eat in other public places. So it's their culture, and I think whenever we go in a different culture, we should know about it. We should respect that culture. That is effective communication. That communication is your respect. Understanding various cultures in this era of globalization is an absolute necessary, because there is existence of different cultures between people from different countries, religious tribes, religions, words, symbols. They may be interpreted differently. It can result in communication barriers and miscommunication. Like, I don't want to drink tea, but refusing them is like disrespecting them. It's considered rude. So that is miscommunication. Showing these signs, okay, that is sometimes considered obscene in certain cultures. It is a cause of miscommunication. Every organization has its own work culture. Now, whatever we spoke was general. Now, let us discuss business cultures. Multinational companies offer special courses, documents to familiarize their staff with culture of the country where they are based for work. Now, let's say you are sent to Japan. So you will need a course in basic Japanese. Okay, so your organization will conduct small course for you so that you understand their culture. You understand now in Japan, they have 6 different ways of disposing garbage. So whenever you go, you should know about their rules and also the culture in which you are going. Every organization has different culture. Like, I remember Tata. They have a culture wherein they are the one of the few companies who employ disabled people. Like, you're physically challenged. They don't get work very easily. But Tata is one company that offers them work. It's their culture. Sometimes organizations have culture wherein, people sit till late. That is their working culture. Departments within the same company may also differ in their expectation, norms, ideologies. This can impact intra, that is within the organization, and inter, different organizations, organizational communication. Like, I'm from an organization wherein the culture is that you get immediate response. So I will appreciate working with a company that provides immediate response. Like, if you send me a WhatsApp asking your doubt, maximum you will get a replies within 1 day if I'm very busy. Otherwise, it is immediate, be it any number of doubts. Okay, whenever I get a doubt, I try to solve it immediately, or if I'm busy, then it is after a few hours or maximum 1 day. So I like to give immediate response. If you come to me with a technical problem, I'll give you immediate response. That is how my organization works. I will want to work in an organization which follows the similar work culture. I'll give you an example of my marketing team. Now, they are there with me since the beginning. Why do I like working with them? Why are they with me since so many years? Because they are also prompt in their approach. So see, like cultures attract each other. They like to work with each other. If I am someone who wants prompt reply, but I don't get, then that is miscommunication. I may feel that they are not professional, but it may happen that they have less manpower. But I am assuming that their work culture is very bad. So that is miscommunication. Then we have emotional barriers. Never communicate when you are angry, when you are sad. So one of the chief barriers to open and free communication is the emotional barrier. Anger, fear of criticism, like you are hesitant to ask doubts in class, you feel your friends will make fun of you. That is barrier to communication. Fear of criticism, okay, mistrust of a person, I don't trust that person, best just not to talk to him. Suspicion of intention, I don't know, why are you asking me these questions? So we hold ourselves, why is he being so friendly with me? Jealousy, why should I go? Yeah, she knows everything, no? Let her come to me now. Barrier in communication. These are sometimes just our beliefs. Anxiety, we are very scared. Sometimes we talk a lot when we are anxious. Many more feelings, sentiments that we carry within us, they affect our communication ability and quality. Like some people who are, when they're tensed, no, they talk a lot. Or sometimes when they're tensed, they go into the shell. So every person is different. So that affects, emotions, they affect our communication. Person who is upset, disturbed, cannot pass or receive information appropriately and objectively, his emotions will color his perception, assessment of communication. When you're angry, everything around you irritates you. So if a person is telling you something, you will take it negatively. Why is he saying that and why is he irritating me? But that may be for your benefit. But because you are irritated, that communication also will not be effective. You will feel irritated only. Or maybe you are sad and the other person is trying to console you. Then you saying, वैसे तो कभी पूछने आता नहीं है. Now why is he being so friendly? That day, you never console me. Today what is new? You never talk to me properly today. So this is miscommunication. We try to judge everything based on our emotions. Attitude barriers. Personal attitude of employees can affect communication. Why should I ask? Let her come and talk to me. I am a male employee. I may have certain attitude barriers. A proactive, somebody who is very active or prompt, motivated worker will facilitate communication process, whereas a dissatisfied, disgruntled, shy, introvert or lazy employee can delay, hesitate in taking initiative or refuse to communicate. I remember my sister was telling me that her boss had put in her papers, okay, and then she had left all the work. She would then tell, "Tum dekh lo, you do it." Arey, till now, till you put in your papers, you were doing all the work and now you are just not interested. So maybe that person is not interested or dissatisfied. So they are like, I don't want to send the papers, you send it, you make the report. That is a barrier in communication because we have never done that and now she's delegating everything on us. So, or sometimes a person is just introvert. He will not give you the information desired unless you go and ask him. That is also a barrier in communication. Sometimes people are just lazy. They have all the information and paperwork, they will just not share it. Attitude problems can be addressed by good management, regular interaction with staff members. That is why organizations take you for picnics. Yes, that is the only reason why corporate picnics, lunches, coffee dates. Yes, let's go for a cup of coffee so that you get to know the person on a personal level. And once the rapport is created, they will start giving you information. Yes, do you remember that movie Chak De India? Shah Rukh Khan, yes, the hockey team, it was a girls hockey team. They would not communicate with each other. They would have attitude barriers and they would be rude. They would not pass the ball. Do you remember all that? Then what did he do? He said, let's go to McDonald's. And there they all were together, they united and they were beating the boys who were teasing them. After that day, there was just a change in their attitude. Yes or no? So that is why meetings or these games or let's organize a cooking contest in the company. All that is to break the ice so that employees, they feel one and start working. Perception barriers. Each one of us perceives the world differently and it causes problems in communicating. I'll give you my example. Until very recently, I was not a believer in The Secret. I used to feel that these books, they talk nonsense, okay? Like, universe is your ground, you should be positive, say positive words. And my perception was that you are the maker of your own destiny, and these things will happen. It is happening because it is like that person will tell bad only about me. Then suddenly I spoke to one of my relatives, and she just changed my perception. She just changed. She said only one or two sentences, and that changed my being. There was a 360-degree turn, and I suddenly realized that yes, whatever is written, whatever I was saying is rubbish. It is nonsense. All that is so true. So everyone perceives the world differently. Now, when I tell the other person, think positive, that person tells that, hey, yaar, she always talks about these positive things and all, because they perceive things differently. When I tell the other person, see, whatever you say is reality. Okay, they don't understand because they don't still believe in that. So they will say that what is she talking? Yeah, she's talking rubbish. At one point of time, even I used to tell, what rubbish? I don't believe it. This is all nonsense. Suddenly my perception changed. So everyone views the world differently. The same content is seen differently and interpreted differently. I'll give you an example over here. Same content, same situation, how people react differently. I had seen a video wherein two salespersons were sent to a particular location, and they were both employees of Bata. They make shoes. They went to the place, and over there nobody was wearing shoes. So one of the employees called his bosses and said, where have you sent me? Nobody wears shoes over here. How will we sell our Bata shoes? Okay, that is his perception. Another employee called and told his boss, good news, nobody is wearing shoes. Send me more products, send me another truckload of shoes. I will sell it to everybody because nobody is wearing shoes. See how two people are interpreting, perceiving the same situation differently. Situation is the same. It's our attitude. It's how we perceive it. Then we have physiological barriers. Physiological means physical barriers. Psychological means related to mind. Here we have a physiological barrier. Hearing difficulties. Like whenever I talk to my great grandmother, I ask her, how are you? She said, I had my lunch. So whenever we are talking to people who have hearing disabilities, you are asking them one question, they are replying something else. That's a barrier to communication. Ill health, that is also a barrier to communication. Like if you have high grade fever, like 103 fever, I wake you up and I say, listen to what I'm saying, sign this contract. You're not in the state of mind, health. So that is a barrier to communication. Let's say that your grandmother is very distressed, she has a lot of health issues. So when you talk about something good and she's like, what do you know? I go through so many things. See, that is a barrier. You're talking so that you distract her, so that she doesn't think about it. And she's like, what do you know about my health? See, we were trying to do something good and then she scolded us. Poor eyesight, somebody who's not able to see properly. And he's not able to read. So that is a barrier to communication. You can't read what is written. Physiological problem. You have some kind of any kind of physiological problem or a psychological problem, that is also barrier to communication. So stress is also a barrier. Then we have technology barriers, and I think yes, this is the last part of our discussion. There was gender barrier also, which I have written in your workbook, but they have removed that from the module. So if you ignore it, it's fine. But I have written so that, just in case it is asked, you should be aware of what is to be written. ICAI has a very bad habit of forgetting that they've omitted certain parts. They ask. So we should be careful. Technology barrier. If people don't know how to use technology in today's world, they will not be able to survive, like in the lockdown. If you don't have a computer, if you don't know how to use Zoom, you will not be able to work, you will not be able to communicate. Like so many people learn to operate computer. I'll tell you, my mom, she would always say, I don't understand computers. What should I press here? What should I click here? So she had to learn computer, because she would if you don't know how to use a computer, how will you work? She's also a teacher. So my mom is also a teacher and she's my guru. So she also takes classes and she had to do it on Zoom. She had to learn it. She called me many times. Huh? Every day I used to give her tutorials. Then finally I got fed up a little. And then I told her, Mama, why don't you remember? Then I used to shoot everything and tell her, click this, click that, and then tell her to save that video. But ultimately she learned everything and now she operates it well. I also taught her on the iPad how to use it, how to write. She was quite excited. And otherwise, nobody will be able to work. You cannot. In today's world, communication modes are primarily technology driven. This communication technology is being frequently used, upgraded, or new formats emerge so frequently. Like my mom tells me, by the time I learn how to use my mobile and technology, it changes. You get comfortable with one mobile and then it changes. Every time you update the software, there are so many new things which they add. Sometimes Google, Gmail changes its format. Then I always click, no, old is better. But you should change with technology. I have also changed the way in which I used to record earlier. Like when I had started, I was very new in this. I didn't know how to record, but slowly, you learn, you adapt, you find new technology, and then the quality of your work also improves. Anyone who's not tech friendly struggles to communicate effectively via the medium. You don't know how to operate WhatsApp. You can't communicate with it. Like what if your children are in US and you don't know even how to use WhatsApp video call? So you won't be able to communicate with them. Moreover, an individual is faced with huge amount of information every day in the form of email, text, social updates. There is information overload. What is important? You should be able to filter it. For that, you should know technology. Na? So there are many things which result in gaps in communication. There are miscommunication. Like so many things are now to be filed online. What if you don't know how to file online? Like Arogya Setu app, and you have to, if you're traveling abroad, you have to web check in. What if you don't know how to do that? So that is a barrier in communication. You can't communicate. You don't know how to find the contact number of that person. How will you call and say that, this is my issue? You have to know basic technology at least. So these are, students, the barriers in communication. I have discussed every barrier in detail so that if you don't remember the theory, you can at least write in your own words. Write the keyword sentences you can frame in your own words. So with this, we complete the barriers to communication. Next, let us solve a case study which is based on communication chapter. I'll see you there.